the age of exploration and discovery. This is a topic you've probably been taught several times throughout your educational career. But because it's so important to the beginning of our U.S. history, we're going to cover it one more time today. Today we're going to focus on the early settlements in U.S., but also go even further back in history and look at the start of age of exploration. So going way back to the 15th century, there was a wide variety of reasons of why people explored the New World. It might be to find new trade routes, such as why Columbus explored, or maybe new resources. And later it developed into religious freedom, freedom from persecution. Now, like I mentioned with Columbus, the phrase 1492, Columbus sailed the ocean blue, is a rhyme that many children are taught when they're young. We celebrate Columbus Day here in the U.S., but Columbus wasn't the one who settled the U.S. He discovered the Dominican Republic in the 15th century. Now, even though he didn't discover the United States, or the New World, as it was called, his discovery of the Dominican Republic opened up new competition and desire to explore this new world, to see what resources are there, what inhabitants might they come across, and how they could expand their home country. France started to try to explore more. Italy started to try to explore more, and Spain got into exploration. All three of those countries were seen as competition to a major country, England. So England wanted to begin to explore the New World. Their first attempt was by Sir Walter Raleigh in 1586 with Roanoke Colony. Now this is known as the Lost Colony, and I'm going to explain that in a little bit. When Sir Walter Raleigh set up Roanoke Colony, the goal was to make it an established settlement in the New World. So he sent 100 households over, 90 men, 17 women, and 9 children, with the hopes that after they settle, they can then expand the colony by having more children. However, they were unprepared. They weren't prepared for the weather. They weren't prepared for the length of the trip. And they weren't prepared for the lack of resources they may come across when landing. So they had to send Sir Richard Grenville back to England for more supplies. Now, going back to England isn't a flight across the ocean. It's going to take months. And it's going to take him months to come back. But in the meantime, his trip was delayed. He did not even make it back to Roanoke until 1590. And by then, no colonists remained. Historians estimate that the colony only lasted 10 months. This is why it's called the Lost Colony. No one knows what happened to those colonists. Even today, historians cannot determine the cause of this disappearance. Was it Native Americans? Was it disease? Was it weather? They're still unsure. So Roanoke Colony was seen as unsuccessful. But they decided to try again with Jamestown Colony in 1607. And this is the first permanent English settlement. It was established by the Virginia Company. This time it's not being sponsored by someone like Sir Walter Raleigh. Instead, it's being established by a company through a charter from King James of England. They saw the New World as an economic opportunity. So King James gave them a charter or money to establish this colony with the hopes that they're going to go back and reap economic benefits for England as a country. Now, the Virginia Company is a private stockholding company. That means if you put money into the company, you're going to get some type of economic benefit out if they make any money. Jamestown took the time to explore the New World and to find the perfect settlement. They decided to settle along water. Easy place to get to, easy place to trade from back to England, and then you're not defending yourself from all sides, only from part of the colony. If you look in this picture, by having their colony right on the water, there's going to be less interaction with Native Americans, was their hope. But they had difficulties also. They had food shortage, disease, illness, and they also had trouble establishing relationships with the local Native Americans. Now, the last trouble was the lack of skilled labor among settlers. Most of these settlers paid their voyage over. They wanted to be part of the new world, but they didn't have the skills to be able to help establish this colony. After only 8 months with all these difficulties, only 38 of the original 104 settlers were still alive. And this time it wasn't households. They sent only men over. The hope was once you settled the colony, then the women and children could come later. But only 38 of the original men were still alive after 8 months. So while Jamestown was the first permanent English settlement, it wasn't fully successful either. They're still facing difficulties. Looking at this map, you can see where Jamestown Colony was located and the Lost Colony. Now, the Lost Colony, historians believe, did not mean to settle in North Carolina where they did. They think the colonists were hoping to settle more inland, kind of where Jamestown did, in the river a little bit more, but still along the water. The next example and last example we're going to look at today is Plymouth, which was established in 1620. When the Pilgrims came, they had 100 men and women, mainly members of the English Separatist Church. If you remember anything about your previous knowledge of Pilgrims, you'll know that they were not allowed to practice this religion in England. It was a secret religion that was practiced behind closed doors. They came searching for that religious freedom, so they could not be persecuted for practicing how they wished. Now, unlike the other settlers who came to Roanoke or Jamestown, the Pilgrims were hardworking and skilled, so they were more prepared right from the get-go. More than half of the Pilgrims survived the first winter. So unlike Jamestown, where only 38 men survived the first 8 months, here you have 50 individuals surviving the first winter. They created peace treaties with the local Native Americans that also allowed the new Pilgrims to be mainly economically self-sufficient for 5 years. They were taught how to grow crops, how to build their colony from the natural resources. By having this peace, that wasn't one more fear they had to have. These 3 examples of settlements show just how, as time goes on, the New World is going to be able to become successfully established. Tomorrow, we're going to continue on in our notes looking at not how these settlements expand, but how they grow into colonies, and looking at the 13 colonies as individual colonies. You're going to be assigned a group tomorrow in class, and it's going to be your job to watch a video tomorrow on that group. And we're going to compare, as a whole, what is the difference between the north, where Plymouth was, or the south, where Roanoke and Jamestown was. But for now, you are all set for tonight. Please come with your notes ready to go tomorrow, and have a good night.